Retreat to Darkmoor, a small game by Action Phase and a game that sure has one heck of an inventive theme, one that I hadn't seen before. In the game, players control armies of evil monsters and minions, and that is not so unusual. There are several games that have similar ideas. But here, the game starts at that you have already been defeated. Yes, your army failed to take the capital of the kingdom, and now your hordes of monsters are retreating to Darkmoor, ideally. And they are being pursued by some excellent heroes that are harassing your marching columns. Now, how does this work? In the game, you have location cards representing the safe havens that the monsters you control are trying to reach. These cards are also double-sided with different effects, so by mixing and matching different sides, you have good replay value here. There is a number there which indicates the number of victory points that the player that has the majority in that location scores at the end of the game, and then there may also be effects that apply. Then you have a deck of heroes. Not all of them are used in a game. The number of heroes that you actually use depends on the number of players that you have, so that's pretty good. Again, unpredictability and replay value. There will always be a hero in play. And when actually the last hero goes out of play, the game is over and you score points. So the heroes will have their own deck. You flip one, stays there until pretty much until it attacks one of the marching hordes, and then is removed. Another hero replaces it, and so on and so forth. As for you, you have your deck of cards representing the minions that you're trying to lead to safety. Minions have a peril value. When a column has a certain peril value, actually a peril value that equals or exceeds the peril value of the hero will attack that column. The column has become interesting all of a sudden. The hero finds it worth to engage with that column. So a peril value here for your monster number, a symbol which simply triggers several game effects. And then an effect. Most monsters, minions that you have effects of various types. Some effects count against adjacent minions, and minions can be adjacent if they are right on top of one another, if they touch each other vertically in the same horde, or if they are orthogonally one from the other in different columns. So for example, this card will be adjacent to this one and to this one, but adjacency is not diagonal. What happens in the game? Flow the game is super simple. When it is your turn, all that you do is you play a card in any of the columns that are forming here. And actually we need 4 of them. So you play a card in any of the columns, in any area in front of one of the havens, and that's it. You play a card, you resolve possible effects coming from playing that card, and then you refill your hand until you're back to 5 cards, which is your standard hand. Sometimes there will be game effects that will make you end your turn with less than 5 cards. That's when you refill up to 5. Usually it's like play a card and draw a card. As simple as that. Now, things become much more laborious, however, when you take into account all of the game effects that will affect things. The golden rule is that the hero is waiting for a column to reach their peril level before attacking. So in this case, when a column has 7 points of peril total, the hero will attack it. But there are many different things that will change the value of peril in a horde. For example, the Fallen Knight, while at the back of a horde, its peril is considered 0. So right now, the peril in that horde is of only 2. But if somebody plays another card, all of a sudden, that is not the last one, and now even with just the 1 here, the peril is 6. So many things of this kind will alter the way things work. So there will be game effects based on this. Some heroes will alter the peril value of certain hordes. The location cards may also alter the value of the minions, or they may apply other things. So it is a fest of game effects that get in each other's way and that you need to learn and you need to exploit to be able to win the game. Basically, you have to take into account game effects that come from locations, cards that you play, cards that your opponents play, and the game effect of the hero. And these change constantly, of course, because the players will play cards constantly, and because once you have become used to what a hero does and to play within the specific rules of that hero, a new hero enters the competition, and different effects apply. For example, as you can see, after an undead minion is played, you add 1 peril token to it, so that increases the peril of the column in which the hero is. In which the monster was played. When a column reaches the required number of peril points, the hero attacks it. What happens usually is that the hero will attack the last card. So usually it's you playing a card that would, you play a card, you trigger that means that the hero will attack your card. So you're trying to use game effects in such a way so that you trigger columns without being the sucker that plays the card, that has the card at the end of the column and gets the card destroyed. Because the hero will destroy usually the last card in the column that triggered the action of the hero. However, there are a lot of game effects that will allow, for example, a monster to be skipped, or will allow you to move things around, etc, etc, etc. Again, it's like game effects galore. In any case, the rule of thumb, the hero destroys the last monster in the column, and then all of the remaining monsters are placed on the other side of the safe haven. They are safe now, and they will be scored at the end of the game. That's the idea. Also, when a hero attacks, you resolve other game effects that may occur, but this is the general idea. Now you continue like this, flipping heroes, playing cards to form columns, and from time to time, after the hero's attack, transferring minions to the other side of the safe havens. You continue like this until the last hero from the pool that you will use in the present game has acted. When the last hero is discarded after attacking one of your columns, all of the remaining minions are moved to the other side of the havens, and at that point you count points. Players may have collected victory point tokens during the game. For example, if you are the active player, when a hero attacks and the hero destroys someone else's minion, you immediately score 2 victory points. So you take a token. You take tokens to record victory points that you will score during the game. To those, you add the points for majority. The player that has the majority of peril in a location scores indicate the number of points. In this case, actually, each location only has cards of one player, so everybody gets majority. The player that is there gets majority because all locations have unopposed minions. So you score points for majority. Finally, you score points for the actual minions that are there. So you have minions that have good powers, but don't score much at the end. The minions that score a lot of points at the end. So these are the ones that you want to get safe to the other side. And the same, of course, the same thing also means that you're trying to prevent valuable minions of the opponent to get to the other side of those cards. You score points on those 3 sources: tokens, locations with majority, individual minions. The player with the highest total is the winner of the game. So this is how the game works. Now, it is a little more than a filler, well, without being, particularly advanced, deep, hardcore game. But the game effects that surround the super linear, straightforward engine can be a little confusing, can be a little daunting. Usually I like games that have a lean core rules so I can learn them easily, and then they add complexity around around that. Here, I don't know, maybe too much of a good thing, because all of these effects do different things and they interact with each other in a large variety of ways. So the first game or two basically will just be discovering what the monsters do and the synergies. Okay, if I move that, I use this effect to move one of my minions, and there's another effect that acts on a minion that moved, and the other effect that gives an advantage on the position in which I move my minion, and now that minion has that symbol, and I have another effect that integrates with that symbol being in that position, da 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 da. Well, the first couple of days will only be pretty much, you'll be concentrated on that, and that's okay. There is just a learning curve about correct and effective implementation of effects rather than a learning curve about the rules. However, the problem is that once you have grasped all of those rules, then the game becomes both technical and chaotic. It's still chaotic if you're playing with more than two players, because, well, so many of these effects will take place that you are preparing your synergies, and who knows if you'll be able to execute them by the next time the game comes around and it is your turn. But it also feels very technical precisely because you start seeing everybody else's strategy. You start seeing that, oh, that card is played, most likely I know what's coming next. Also, I have certain synergies in my hand, and I know that certain cards will go well in certain ways, etc. So unfortunately to me, the game felt a little confusing at the beginning, but once I got it, I felt I got it, it didn't feel all that interesting. It wasn't that lively, it wasn't that exciting. It felt pretty dry and again pretty technical. I knew that I had to exploit the effects. The theme is not really there. It's very abstract, but frankly I don't care so much about the theme when I'm just trying to chain off effects and create convoluted combos, all in this storm of other effects caused by the other players. It is not a bad game. It just feels a puzzle that changes constantly, so in a certain sense it's a complicated puzzle that you don't have many chances of solving fully. That's okay. If you solve fully the puzzle design, then there isn't much that you can do with that game design anymore. But it still feels confusing and somewhat a little, unrewarding. At the end, you count points, and I won by some points, and you lost by some points. The whole game feels so abstract and convoluted that somehow really, it doesn't build up to a climax. There isn't a real sense of progression. It is nice to have different heroes, but it just feels like you're repeating variants of complicated formulas, convoluted combos of events. You're repeating them for a string of times until all the heroes have come out of the deck. You count points, and that's it. It feels a little cold, it feels a little hollow. It is, game-wise, it's a solid design. The effects, you can see how they have been nicely crafted to work with one another, interact with one another, get in each other's way. Sometimes almost too much, sometimes almost like to a point of equilibrium, as I do something, you take it away, then you do something, I take it away, and we are like, well, then why did we spend the last 2 turns if we are exactly like we were 2 turns ago? Sometimes actually even that equilibrium may be a little bit, I don't know, it's a little unconvincing to me, it's a little weak. But that being said, ludically speaking, it's a solid design because the concatenation of game effects is solid. This being said, I just don't find this game all that enticing, all that engaging, because at the end, after when I'm learning those game effects and how to chain them off, I'm a little confused. After I learn them, somehow there isn't much that is left for me to be interested in the game. There isn't really a lot that is left to hold my interest. Not a big game, not a bad game if you like a puzzle of this kind, but frankly not my favorite option for dungeon crawling or for fantasy. In any case, that's not a dungeon crawler. For fantasy, well, the theme is so similar that that's the expression that came to mind. Not my best option for fantasy gaming or for filler games or filler card games. I just feel there are other games that have better, more efficient and engaging balance between simple rules and interesting effects. And this one is one that does that kind of thing, but to me does not excel at it.